Hi there. It's food time. Holiday meals should always be memorable and delicious, but you also don't want to cut corners when you're serving up something special. Safeway and Albertsons executive chef Jeff Anderson, Chef Jeff, is here with a couple of mouth-watering ideas. It's great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
I have been eyeing the sirloin all morning. So what are we making?
We've got a great holiday recipe for you that is going to help save you some time. You know, holidays are a crunch and everyone's like time starved. So this is a real simple recipe that not only works for this tenderloin, but it also would work for a prime rib roast. So you get lots of different ways to use the compound butter that's going to top the steak.
Woo! Okay, so we're smoking it up with the pan there.
Yeah, the first thing we do is we take tenderloin. This is open nature tenderloin, which you're only going to find exclusively at Safeway or Albertsons stores in the Seattle area. It's all natural, no added hormones or antibiotics. It's grass-fed, so you have to like the flavor of grass-fed.
I do.
It's super good and clean, but all we're going to do is put a little salt and pepper on here like so.
Okay.
We've studded it with the sprigs of rosemary, and we've got some garlic in there.
Yeah, I see a little bit of garlic. So did you made a little hole and just poke the garlic inside?
You wedge it in there, and it's, like I said, this recipe you could also use for prime rib. So if you have a whole prime rib roast,
I am so hungry right now.
Everybody loves prime rib roast because of the value of it and the taste, but you do the same thing with the prime rib, and part of that time-saving tip is you could do that 2 or 3 days in advance. And for preparing the tenderloin, it just goes into a hot pan. You're going to sear one side of it. It's going to go in a 400-degree oven for about 6 to 7 minutes, and you got a delicious meal. And it's really simple.
That means that it's going to be nice and soft, seared on the outside. Oh, I love it. I love it. I know not everybody's a meat eater, and I apologize, vegetarians. We do lots of segments for vegetarians, but today it's steak.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's like we've got other things on the plate too besides just meat. And when I show you this compound butter, this is the secret though to this recipe. Besides the beef is going to be the compound butter that has hickory smoked bacon and some Dijon. So smash that up a little bit. Yep, you got to kind of press it down.
Okay.
We're going to add a little tiny bit of Dijon mustard to it.
Really?
Now, if you don't like Dijon mustard,
I do though.
You don't have to use Dijon. You could use other things. You could use something like, say, balsamic vinegar, or you could use some fresh herbs like thyme or rosemary, or roasted garlic cloves would be perfect for this. Now, the thing about this is you can make this 2 or 3 days in advance, and that's pretty much all you're going to need to do to it. Yep. Now,
I almost felt like I was failing there. That's sort of a man-sized mash you have to do with that.
Nope. And what's great about this is this becomes an instant sauce. So you're talking about saving time for the holidays.
Right.
What I do is I make this ahead. I put it in the refrigerator, and then, or even the freezer, and then the day of I just dollop it on. But here's a trick. This is my favorite trick.
Show us how to do it.
This is parchment paper with the compound butter rolled up in it, and when you take a nice slice of this like so, you get these beautiful coins, and look how gorgeous these are. And then these can go right on top of the steak, and then all we got to do is pop the steak on top of our dish like so. Once it comes out of the oven, and you got that beautiful plate.
So do I put it on just as I'm serving it so that it melts in front of whoever's eating it?
Yeah. And it becomes, I'll call it the secret sauce or the instant sauce. So you don't have to spend a lot of extra time cooking.
Yeah.
The green beans were cooked in the microwave. The potatoes were steamed in the microwave. So really, the only thing you're doing is cooking the steak.
That is amazing, and the mushrooms look delicious as well.
Yep.
So all you did was put this in the paper, roll it up.
Yep.
Put twine on each end.
I tie the ends because that way it lets me twist it and shape it. But sometimes, I'll put it in a Ziploc bag too and store it in a Ziploc bag. And then just flatten it. And then all I need to do is snip the end and just kind of pipe it on top the steak.
That is amazing. Okay, so one of the things we want to do is have great taste like this and not spend a ton of money. So what are your tips for kind of good shopping, good ingredients, making sure we're getting the most for our budget?
Yep, well, I think that's important too. So that's why this recipe started with a prime rib roast, because a prime rib roast has bones attached to it that you can, after the roast is done, you can take off and you can finish roasting them and serve those as a separate meal. You can take them and use them as a broth. So some people at this time of year love to drink broths, on a cold day. you can slice, anywhere between 4 to 6 ounces per person. You get this large cut of meat. You can break it down into different segments. And so that's where I really started thinking about how do you get great value out of a great cut of meat. It starts with the quality of the meat, which is really important. And then how many different ways can you use that meal?
And don't waste it.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting thing about broth I didn't know. See if you guys knew this. Store-bought broth has sugar in it. That's a source of hidden sugar. It's a stabilizer for that. So if you make your own broth, you don't have that problem.
Yeah, and everybody's real keen on grass-fed right now, and that's why the Open Nature meats that are all grass-fed, 100% grass-fed, are perfect for that sort of thing. And everybody loves. I love sipping broth like in the afternoon, and it's absolutely delicious.
Or for soups or whatever else. You guys also have awesome sales on your meats.
Yeah, and I think that if you mentioned maybe people like things other than beef. Well, we also have chicken. We've got fish. We've got delicious shrimp that you can do. You can use this exact same recipe. Maybe you don't use the bacon, but this compound butter concept works perfect on things like chicken and shrimp,
or just veggies,
or steam the vegetables
or
with it
pasta.
too. Yep, absolutely.
Wow, I am just starving now. I'm so hungry. And what are your other tips for saving time? What should we be thinking about?
Well, some of the things I like to do, I always test my recipes in advance, and then that way you can kind of hack the recipe and figure out where you can take shortcuts. I always ask other people to help. Anything I can do in advance and put into the refrigerator or the freezer ahead of time. Like now's the time to do your shopping for all your baked goods. So get to the store and buy all your your sugars, your butters, your creams. You can freeze the butter.
Idea.
That's not a problem. Testing the recipe is one of those things where, a lot of people get really stressed about that. Once you take that stress away, it's a lot easier to get through the day. A lot of times you're like, how am I going to get through the day and do all this cooking? I'm really not sure. But if you practice once or twice, then you just kind of come into it and you're like, you walk into the house and you're like, I need you to do this, you do this, and you.
And that's that.
Yeah.
And I do the opposite. I tend to try a recipe for the first time when we have guests. I have no idea why I do that to myself. Anything else sidewise you want to mention, things we should consider?
Well, like I said, I talked about,
Can I have a green bean?
Yeah, absolutely. I talked about the vegetables. This is a perfect time of year to take advantage of the seasonality, and it's like take a walk through the produce department. We got these beautiful mushrooms that I saw when we were shopping yesterday. And so I added those to the meal. So don't be afraid to kind of make the meal your own. Like experiment. Like maybe decide that this year, I'm going to try something different. I might try braising a piece of meat. So for example, this concept of the tenderloin with the garlic and rosemary could also work over, say, stewed peppers, where you stew the peppers, you brown the meat, you put it on there, you pop in the oven and bake it. So don't be afraid to be creative.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. This looks delish and great tips.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
You can find these tips and many more easy, delicious recipes at Safeway or Albertsons.com/seasonseatings. We'll also link you through New Day's homepage. And to help you get started on holiday feasting, everybody here is going home with a $20 gift card to Safeway and Albertsons. This is like a bonanza today. Thank you for that. All right, after the break, what goes well with a nice steak? How about a sparkling wine cocktail? Seattle Magazine's wine guy is going to show us that.